Hi everyone, welcome back. Happy New Year. I hope you all enjoyed the holidays. It feels like so long since I filmed a video and uploaded one, but I'm back. And today's case that we are going to be talking about is all kinds of messed up. Today we are talking about a wannabe Instagram/TikTok model, Lucy Lee. She was one of 3 triplets. She came from a very wealthy family. Like her parents were funding Lucy's lavish, luxurious lifestyle.
To me, my mom is our number one supporter. Not only does she help us realize our goal in life, she will help us in any way she can to reach the goal.
And Lucy, along with her 2 sisters, they wanted to be influencers. So they started up their Instagram account. They called themselves SechyTriplets. And they started to try and be models/influencers. They were posting photos of themselves, mostly in swimwear. They soon got the nickname of the SechyTriplets. And around the same time as Lucy was trying to be an influencer, she got an incredibly toxic boyfriend by the name of Oliver. Oliver was like a walking red flag. He got himself mixed up in the criminal underworld. He had been to prison. He was just a really dodgy character. However, Lucy seemed to look past all of these red flags and she was fully on board with everything that Oliver was doing. And of course, they did some very messed up stuff that they thought that they could get away with.
Yeah, I feel really rude. If it was up to me, I would just tell you guys everything, but my lawyer and my mom strongly instructed me not to say anything.
Which is, of course, what we are going to be talking about today. So let's jump in. And I just want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, and that is Midas Merch. Now, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before, but I absolutely love fantasy world. Like, I can literally get lost for hours and hours in my fantasy books. It is literally my life. And that is why Midas Merch is the perfect game for me. Because you play in this amazing fantasy land filled with all of these tiny, adorable little creatures. There is such a complex backstory to the heroes and villains. You go on a wild ride. There are many lands to unlock. The fun literally never ends. But my favorite part of all is nurturing all of the cute, adorable little creatures. There are over 200 to collect. You care for them, you feed them. You can even evolve them by merging them together. And merging the creatures is just so satisfying. You just merge 3 creatures together and then you are left with an upgraded creature. And the game is just so heartwarming, it's so relaxing. I have been playing it almost every night recently. It has definitely helped me get through the January blues. And if you wanted to check out Midas Merch for yourself and find your own favorite creature, because mine is definitely the Crystal Fawns, then you can download the game for free by using the link in my description box. And using that link rather than going to the App Store really does help out this channel because it lets Midas Merch know that you came from this video. And if you are among the first 100 to download the game through my link or QR code, you will receive a unique Mox Fox in your game, which is just such an adorable little fox creature. And it will also be customized with my channel name, which is just crazy. How amazing is that? So thank you again to Midas Merch for sponsoring today's video, but thank you to every single one of you guys watching right now, because truly without all of you guys, I wouldn't get opportunities like this. And now let's jump into today's case. Lucy Lee was born in 1995. An exact date of birth is not known. And she grew up in Shenzhen, China, where she lived with her parents and her siblings. Now, like I said, Lucy was one of 3 triplets. Her 2 sisters are called Caitlin and Jane. And Lucy was actually the eldest out of the triplets by 5 minutes. And when the triplets were very young, I'm talking they're still toddlers at this point, their parents decided to emigrate to Toronto, Canada. But they left the triplets back in China. So the 3 triplets were actually raised by close family members up until the age of 7. And then when the triplets turned 7, their parents were now fully settled in Toronto. The children, the 3 triplets, joined their parents in Toronto, Canada. And then once now the whole family has been reunited in Toronto, the parents go on to have 2 more children. So Lucy would now also have a younger brother and a younger sister. And Lucy's dad ran a driving school for Chinese immigrants, and he was pretty successful. He was very hardworking, but it was Lucy's mom, Winnie, who was the most successful out of the whole family because her business took off. And when I say it took off, I really do mean that. Because Winnie, the mom, she ran a wealth management business called Respon International. And it worked a lot with Chinese Canadians. And it was mostly to do with selling life insurance policies that allowed clients to transfer money from overseas without being taxed. And Winnie soon became a very prominent businesswoman in Canada. You can see videos of her at all of these conferences, rubbing shoulders with some of the most important people in Canada, if not the world. There are even photos of her with the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. So she was well connected. She was very powerful, very influential, and she was very rich. And when I say rich, I'm talking multi-millionaires. So going back to Lucy, she's obviously now growing up in Canada, and growing up, she rarely saw her mom because her mom was just so busy. However, when Lucy and the rest of the children did see their mom, she was a very strict disciplinarian. She has been described as what is known as a tiger mom, which basically meant that she was very demanding of her children. She wanted all of her children to be successful. She basically wanted all of her children to follow in her footsteps. She wanted them all to have perfect grades. She wanted them to have hobbies. She wanted them to be super competitive, always striving to be the best of the best. And the children, they had to stay at home quite a lot. They had to stay at home and do all of their homework. They were rarely allowed out to play with their friends. It seems like they had to be adults and take on a lot of responsibility at a very young age and grow up very quickly. At just the age of 13, the triplets set up their own non-profit organization called the Canada Youth Funding Association, which gave back to young women and children. And their mom really was pushing them to be successful in life. As young teenagers, the triplets especially were taken to a lot of the business events that their mom was attending. She really was training them to be her.
To me, my mom is our number one supporter. Not only does she help us realize our goal in life, but she's the type of lady that'll help us get to our goal. She will help us in any way she can to reach the goal that we want to achieve.
However, Lucy in particular really struggled with this. She wasn't the most academic, so she was seen as a little bit of a disappointment, which is really horrible to say because every child has their own skills, which meant that she rebelled a lot against her mom. She had a lot of arguments with her mom. And Lucy herself has described herself in school as just being a little bit nerdy. She had braces and bangs, and she just didn't feel like she ever fit in with the other kids in her school. And she probably also didn't feel like she fitted in with her family, who definitely valued academic intelligence over everything else. So now we get to Lucy at the age of 14. And this is when something very, very significant happens, because Lucy meets a boy called Oliver Carafa, who, if you remember from the intro of this video, becomes her partner in crime. So yes, these two met at a very young age. So Lucy is currently 14 years old. However, Oliver is 2 grades above Lucy, so he is 16. So now just to jump to Oliver for a second, just a little bit of backstory about him. Oliver was actually born in Slovakia in 1993. Again, an exact date of birth is not known. And he emigrated to Canada when he was 8 years old, first living in Windsor and then moving to Toronto. And he had a pretty uneventful childhood. There's nothing really to note. He has been described as a little bit of a wild child, a little bit of a rebel, getting into a little bit of trouble, but nothing too serious. And it was in high school that Lucy and Oliver started first talking, and they quickly started a relationship. However, the relationship didn't last too long because Oliver wanted to have sex with Lucy. And Lucy was like, hell no, I am not ready for that, which I do not blame her because you got to remember she's only 14 years old. And Oliver decided that, yeah, he wasn't going to wait. So he actually went and had sex with one of Lucy's friends instead. So their little high school romance soon came to an end. So we're going to leave Oliver now, but remember him because he does come back up, obviously. So now Lucy has finished high school. And she was essentially pushed into studying business at university by her mom. It seems like their mom was quite pushy. I feel like definitely at least the 3 triplets, their mom seemed to have their whole life planned for them. Because Winnie, the mom, she did make all 3 of the triplets study business at university, even if they didn't want to. I don't think what her children wanted actually mattered to her. Like I've said multiple times already, she really just wanted her children to become her. And as well, what was just really bad is that Winnie turned everything into a competition between the triplets. For example, she said that she would buy one of them a car if they got the right grades, which is incredibly toxic. Like, why would you turn siblings on one another like that? Like, turn everything into a competition? And I don't actually know what the relationship was like with the triplets. I couldn't really find out, but I can imagine their relationship was a bit strained at times. And Lucy did pretty well at university. According to her mom, she even went to study at Harvard for a short period of time, although I have no idea what she was actually studying at Harvard, like I don't know. So then university life passes, it's not really that eventful. And to no shocker to anyone, she starts working with her mom in the life insurance business. However, this is when Lucy starts to struggle again. She starts to struggle to attract big clients. She struggles to fill the shoes that her mom has tried to make her fill. She was not doing as well as her mom had hoped. And I think just the stress of everything, the stress of trying to live up to something that she clearly didn't want to be, it really got to her. And she wanted a break. She wanted to experience life a little bit more. And she wanted to take 2 years out from work just to do whatever she wanted, to experience life, try something new, travel the world, just do whatever. And she was in a very fortunate position that she could do this because, like I briefly mentioned, this family is wealthy, millionaires, multi-millionaires. So her mom agreed for Lucy and her 2 sisters, so the 3 triplets, their mom agreed to allow them 2 years off work where she would fund their lifestyle. She gave each one of the triplets a monthly allowance of $5,000. So that's $15,000 each month that Winnie is just giving to the triplets just to do whatever they wanted. And it's like, wow. That is how privileged they are, that they can just all of a sudden decide, oh, you know what? I want to take 2 years off of work and my mom is going to pay for it. So hopefully that gives you the kind of impression of what Lucy is like. Yes, she has been under a lot of stress and pressure her whole life to be basically her mom, but she's also incredibly spoiled. So what did the 3 triplets decide to do with all of this spare time that they now have? Well, all 3 of them decided that they wanted to become influencers. They created an Instagram account, a TikTok account with the username Mia Triplets. They started posting various different kinds of content on Instagram, and I'm not entirely sure what all of the content was on Instagram because pretty much everything has now been taken down and I can't see it. However, from what I could see, it was mainly just the triplets trying to be like influencer/models. A lot of the photos were all 3 of them together posing in lingerie and bikinis, just various different kinds of outfits. A lot of the things that they would post, they would have the hashtag SexyTriplet on, and that seemed to become their nickname. They also had a TikTok account, which started to grow quite a lot as well. They had 60,000 followers on TikTok and 40,000 followers on Instagram. So they're not like crazy big influencers or anything like that, but they do have a following. That is still a lot of people following them on TikTok and Instagram. And as they started to get bigger, companies started to reach out, sending them free products, asking them to do sponsored content. And they started to do sponsored content on Instagram and TikTok. They were being paid between $500 and $1,000 per post. And then from this kind of influencer lifestyle, Caitlin, one of the triplets, she started entering into various different beauty pageants. She entered the Miss World Canada competition, the Miss Intercontinental Canada, Miss Canada. She was just entering into various different beauty pageants and she came runner-up in all of these competitions. She also won Miss World Toronto as well as Miss Power of Beauty, and there are various videos of Caitlin entering into these pageants. You can see her talking, competing.
I am Caitlin and I am proudly your Miss Intercontinental Canada 2020.
And because she was winning these competitions or coming runner-up in these competitions, this was boosting the profile of the triplets. So now we get to 2019 and Lucy is now 24 years old. And this is when all of the social media stuff was happening. This is when the triplets were really trying to make a push to become influencers. And this is when something very, very significant occurred in Lucy's life because a blast from the past came back. And who was that? Oliver Carafa, her little brief high school romance. Now, it had been almost 10 years since the pair had seen one another, and Oliver was currently 26 years old. And what had Oliver been doing over those 10 years? Well, straight out of high school, he actually wanted to become a model. His headshot can actually be seen on modeling agency websites. However, for the majority of the time since he had last seen Lucy, Oliver was actually in a prison cell. Yes, he had been quite busy because back in 2012, when Oliver was 19 years old, he went out drinking one night with a friend called David and another female friend that we don't know the name of. And they got very, very drunk. They drank a lot of alcohol. According to sources, they ordered 2 pints, a Black Russian, 4 Jack Daniels, and 4 pitchers of beer. So they consumed a lot of alcohol. They were very, very drunk. They were way past the limit that anyone should even consider driving. So the female friend, she left at around 2 a.m. She just got out of there. However, Oliver thinks that it's a good idea to drive. Even though he has had all of that alcohol, he gets behind the wheel and his friend David gets in the passenger side. And he is 4 times over the drink drive limit. So there is no way in hell that he should have even considered driving. But he does, and he is driving recklessly. He's driving way too fast. And at some point on the journey, Oliver completely lost control of the vehicle and it veered off the road. It went straight into a light post and it was a major accident. Witnesses have said that it sounded like a plane crash. The car actually cut clean in half. That is how fast Oliver was going. And tragically for Oliver's friend David, the impact completely severed his seatbelt and he was completely ejected from the car. His skull went headfirst into the light post, which, quote, caused a complete expulsion of his brain onto the street and windows, which sounds absolutely horrific. And David, he lost his life because of this accident. But miraculously, Oliver, he left the car crash and he was basically untouched. He had very, very minor injuries. Authorities have later said that no one should have survived that car crash. And after the crash, Oliver could be heard saying, quote, "I'm screwed, I killed someone, I'm going to jail." And that is exactly what happened. Because Oliver, he was arrested. He was charged with impaired driving causing death. And his parents had actually, at this point, moved back to Slovakia and they had to bail him out. However, in 2014, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison, as well as a driving ban for 15 years. So Oliver went to jail and he did not keep his head down. He got into trouble left, right, and center. He was involved in a scheme to smuggle in contraband into the prison. He was definitely getting involved with the wrong kinds of people in prison, making very, very dodgy connections, which I guarantee you are the dodgy connections that he has when he comes out of prison, which is later on in the case. But he was being denied parole constantly because of his behavior in prison. So he served the full 5 years. And the parole board said that he was, quote, "a young man with an abnormal sense of entitlement who believes rules made for society do not apply to him." And then it was in 2019 that he had served his full 5 years and Oliver Carafa was released from prison. And then after leaving prison, Oliver tried to get his life back on track. He went to Instagram. He wanted to reconnect with people from his past. And this is when he realized that Lucy, his ex-girlfriend from high school, was now an Instagram/TikTok model. And of course, he wanted to get in touch with her straight away. And Lucy seemed over the moon that Oliver was contacting her. She was so happy to hear from him. She realized that Oliver still had dreams of being a model like she had. She found him incredibly charming, good looking, and the two of them arranged to go on a date, and now things move incredibly quickly in their relationship. Because by date number 2, Lucy moves in with Oliver. Like, literally date 2. Like, I know they knew each other in high school and everything, so it's not actually like their second date. They do kind of know each other, but still, he's been to prison. Now that they're living with one another, Lucy's mom is not thrilled about this because she did not like Oliver at all. She did not think he was a good influence on her daughter. She thought that Oliver was going to take her daughter down the wrong path. And that is definitely an understatement. So now that Lucy has moved in with Oliver, her mom financially cuts her off Because as we know, Lucy's mom has been funding her life, giving her $5,000 a month. Well, all of that money now stops because Lucy's mom was like, well, you're living with your boyfriend now. Like, you two can figure it out. And I assume that this must have been pretty difficult for Lucy initially because, yes, she's an influencer on TikTok and Instagram, but she's not making a lot as an influencer. And obviously, she's an influencer with her two other sisters, so the money would have had to have been split 3 ways. However, that didn't matter for very long because Oliver started making quite a lot of money. Now, you ask, is he making money legitimately? No. Unfortunately not. Oliver, as soon as he gets out of prison, he basically decides that he's going to start up one dodgy business after one dodgy business after one dodgy business. Because Oliver wanted to become this entrepreneur, this multi-millionaire, this very powerful businessman. And he did everything from exporting cars to filming social media ads to selling weighted blankets. Like, he literally did everything. And he made a lot of money. The couple soon moved into a 2-bedroom townhouse in Toronto. So you know that they are making a lot of money. Lucy was basically his designated driver because remember, he has that 15-year driving ban and they have really nice cars. She would drive him around to all of his business meetings. She would help him move all of the cars around that he was selling. Lucy was very involved in all of the businesses. And I have seen suspicions that these businesses were illegal. They were dodgy. And these are suspicions that I 100% believe. It is suspected that all of his importing cars and everything, he was actually just moving around cars that were stolen, selling them for parts, getting them out of the country, and that is how he was making so much money. But of course, who knows? And the relationship between Lucy and Oliver carried on for another year. We are now in the spring of 2020. So basically at the beginning of the pandemic, the whole world pretty much was in lockdown. And the two of them were obviously in lockdown and they both became a little bit stir crazy. Oliver decided that he wanted to travel back to Slovakia to be with his family, just travel around Europe, even though there was a pandemic going on, and he wanted to bring Lucy with him. So he bought some plane tickets, and when they arrived at the airport, they tried to board the plane. But because of COVID restrictions and everything, Oliver could travel back to Slovakia because he had dual nationality. But Lucy couldn't because she wasn't a citizen of Slovakia. And the couple were told that the only way Lucy could board the flight was if she was Oliver's wife. Now, you would think any rational person would be like, okay, fair enough, I'll just go home. But these are not rational people that we are talking about today. So what did Oliver and Lucy decide to do? They decided to get married right there and then in the airport, over Zoom on the internet. And I'm like, really? What the actual hell? I mean, I know that there were weddings, marriages going on the internet over Zoom and everything because of the restrictions. But what the hell? Why are they getting married over Zoom in an airport? Like, that just doesn't make sense. Like, were they literally in the middle of the airport, like with a laptop in front of them? Like, what did this even look like? It is just bizarre. Or is that just me? Like, I think that this is crazy to get married just to board a plane, especially because they weren't engaged or anything. Like, there was no discussion of marriage prior to this point. So anyway, they are now married, husband and wife, happily ever after and all. They spend a few months traveling around Europe and then they return home to Canada at the end of the summer. So anyway, he's back in Canada and he wants to make more money. He wants to expand his businesses. And Oliver soon comes across a man called Tyler Pratt. And Oliver was desperate to get into business with Tyler. He saw Tyler as a huge opportunity that he wanted to take advantage of. However, his relationship with Tyler would be very, very bumpy, to say the least. And it would soon all end in deadly circumstances. So Tyler Pratt was born in British Columbia, where he grew up with a large family. He played hockey. He was also an aspiring entrepreneur like Oliver. And later on in life, Tyler went on to get married and have 2 children. He also had various businesses. He ran a diamond company called Hard as Diamonds. He also ran a nutrient supplement company. But one thing that you should know about Tyler was that he was a cocaine dealer. And he wasn't a street level dealer, like he wasn't out on the streets selling drugs. No, he was a drug trafficker. He was high up in the supply chain. He would basically buy cocaine in large quantities from another country and then distribute it down to lower drug dealers. So he was handling a lot of drugs. He was making a lot of money. There have been reports that he would sell $1 million worth of cocaine in one day. So we are talking about a hell of a lot of money, tens of millions of dollars probably. And I don't know if I have to state the obvious here, but this is not okay. The drug trade can negatively impact so many people in so many different ways. So I just want to make it very, very clear that I do not condone Tyler's business and what he is doing. I'm just telling you, this is what he is doing. So then by the time that we get to 2020, Tyler had split up from his wife, but he was still in his kid's life. He has 2 kids, remember? And he is reportedly an amazing dad, so attentive, always there for his children, would never miss like a birthday or a special occasion or holidays. So Tyler is now in his late 30s, and in 2020, he meets a woman called Jordan Romano. Now, Jordan had grown up in Ontario. She was currently in her late 20s. She was an exotic dancer, and the two of them hit it off. They started dating and things moved very quickly for them. They fall head over heels in love with one another. Jordan stopped working and Tyler was now funding their lifestyle. I mean, he was earning a lot of money and they did live a life of luxury. They had really expensive cars. They went on luxury vacations. They had designer clothes. And when we get to the summer of 2020, Jordan and Tyler, they wanted to start the rest of their lives together. The pair soon got engaged. They wanted to get married. They wanted to start a family. And then there was one other thing that the couple wanted, and that was that Tyler wanted to get out of the cocaine business. It is reported that he wanted to get out of the criminal lifestyle. He wanted to get on the straight and narrow, and he wanted to become a legitimate businessman. Jordan said that they just wanted to be a normal couple and escape all of the negativity associated with the cocaine business. However, what neither one of them realized is when they were trying to convert to a clean lifestyle, it would soon all end in tragedy. Because this is now where Oliver comes back into the story. Because it's July 2020, Tyler is looking to change his life, actually start some legitimate clean businesses. So he started reaching out to a few friends. He started saying like, hey, do you know anyone that is in this business or this business? I'm looking to invest in some businesses. I'm looking to start businesses. And this is when one of Tyler's acquaintances says, yeah, I know a legitimate businessman. His name is Oliver Carafa. So Tyler and Oliver, they arranged to go on a little business meeting / dinner to get to know one another. And Oliver, he was a charmer. He was very manipulative. He definitely could talk. So at this dinner, Oliver was talking, going on and on about how successful he was, how much money he was making from all of his legitimate businesses, all of his car exports, his weighted blankets. And Oliver asked Tyler if he wanted to invest in one of his new businesses. And Tyler was very, very impressed with Oliver and what he had done in such a short space of time. So Tyler was like, yeah, definitely. I'm desperate to invest in something legal. But at this point, I'm not actually sure if Oliver had a business idea or if he just saw an opportunity in front of him. Because Tyler has a lot of money. He is looking to invest a lot of money in business. And I think Oliver just saw dollar signs and just said, yeah, invest in my new business. So Oliver just blagged his way through this dinner meeting and he managed to convince Tyler to hand over money right there and then to invest in this so-called business. Tyler agreed to invest $170,000 right there and then at that meeting. Even though Tyler at this point doesn't even know what the business is that he's investing in. So after this meeting, Oliver goes back to Lucy and he says, help me. I need to think of a business that this Tyler person can invest in. And Oliver was going through all of these business ideas and what he could claim his new business idea was. And he was trying to think, okay, what are my strengths? What can I do that is legitimate? What is a legitimate business idea that is going to play up to my individual strengths? And he actually says to Lucy, oh, I'm from Eastern Europe. Maybe we could set up a business where we bring over girls from Eastern Europe and sell them to clients over here in Canada. So he basically wanted to set up a human trafficking business, which is not legal at all, completely disgusting. And considering Tyler wants to get into legal business, I don't think Tyler would have been okay with that idea. And thankfully, Lucy does seem to have some brains and she actually shut that down. She was like, oh no, 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 that is not what we are doing. She actually said it was the most stupid idea he's ever come up with. And I think that is the one and only time I probably will agree with Lucy. So the business idea that Oliver lands on eventually is that he wants to set up a business that sells PPE equipment. And just in case you are not aware of what PPE is, it is personal protective equipment. And of course, we see it all the time, but obviously it was very prevalent in the pandemic. It just includes things like face masks and goggles and aprons, you know, all of the stuff that hospital staff, staff in care homes, just people in general used a lot in the pandemic. He basically wanted to financially gain from the pandemic. He was going to buy in all of this PPE equipment at a low cost and then sell it on for a ridiculously high price and make a lot of money. And of course, unfortunately, that was happening. And again, he thought he was playing up to his strengths because he was going to sell this PPE equipment to Europe, where he was from. And Oliver thinks that he has struck gold with this idea. So he's all happy. He goes to Tyler and he's like, yeah, this new business, I'm going to buy all of this PPE equipment. I'm going to sell it on, make a lot of money. And Tyler was like, oh my God, this is incredible. This is legal and I'm going to make a lot of money. So Tyler goes along with it. Oliver starts investing all of Tyler's money into this so-called PPE business and things are going well. Tyler thinks that he's found a new best friend and business partner in Oliver. The two girlfriends, Jordan and Lucy, start getting along and hanging out, and the four of them become really close friends. Tyler grew to absolutely adore Oliver. So much so that Tyler and Jordan bought Oliver a diamond necklace for his birthday. I'm like, a diamond necklace for a friend you have just made. Wow, that is how much money they have. And they were becoming this cozy little couple friendship group. They were hanging out all of the time, going to dinners. They even talked about going on vacation to Italy together. Like, they were really close friends. Oliver was telling Tyler that the business was going well. They were selling truckloads of PPE equipment, but he needed more money to keep the business growing. And Tyler didn't question anything. He took Oliver's word for it and he invested another $470,000, which is just crazy money. Like, how can someone just be like, oh yeah, don't worry, I'll give you more money. I'll give you nearly $500,000. Like, who has that kind of money? There was never any kind of like formal contract in place between the pair. All of the business deals and the money being handed over was all done informally in informal conversations. Nothing was ever written down. And as far as everyone was aware, Oliver was investing this money. He was putting this money to good use. It seemed like a legitimate business. But to be honest, no one actually saw where this money was going. Even Lucy, his partner in crime, never saw where this money went. She didn't actually know what Oliver was up to. She just trusted that he was taking all of this money and then investing it into this business and sending PPE equipment across to Europe. But was Oliver looking after all of this money? Well, of course, you guessed it, no. Because after a few months, Tyler started questioning things. He started to say, where's my money? Like, I thought we were making so much money. I'm not seeing any return yet. But Oliver just started making up a load of excuses, saying that, oh, because he was selling across Europe, it was difficult to then get the money back to Canada. All of the money is just in Europe right now. We just can't access it. And Oliver started showing all of these bank statements from banks across Europe. There was actually one account with 12 million euros in it. And Oliver said that 3 million of those euros was Tyler's guaranteed. So this seemed to calm Tyler's nerves a little bit, and he went back to trusting Oliver blindly. But were these bank accounts real? No, they were forged. There was no 12 million euros in any account anywhere. And where was all of Tyler's money that he had invested, which at this point was $640,000? Where was it all? Well, no one actually knows. No one actually knows if this PPE business that Oliver claimed to have started actually exists. Like, I truly just don't know. I tried to find out if this was actually a business. I searched high and low on the internet and I don't know. I have no clue what Oliver did with all of Tyler's money. Did he invest it somewhere? Did he start a business? We just don't know. All we do know is that Oliver, at some point, he lost all of that money. That money had completely disappeared. And if you want my personal opinion, I don't think that PPE business ever existed. I think the whole thing was just a scam. I think Oliver just wanted money. That is how he did it. I think he was just a scammer. But regardless of what happened to the money, Tyler was now asking questions again. He was now saying, okay, so where's my money? Where's that 3 million euros that you had showed me? You said that it was guaranteed to be mine. Like, where is it? But Oliver had no money. He had no money to give to Tyler. And everything started falling apart. And now this is where everything goes downhill. So a few weeks later, Tyler is now demanding money. And Oliver was panicking because he had no money. So this is when he got Lucy involved for the first time in this whole business with Tyler. He told Lucy about the missing money. He was telling Lucy that he just didn't know what to do. He needed her help. He was like, what do we do? What do we do? I need your help. I need you. So Lucy said that they needed to buy some time. They needed to get Jordan and Tyler off of their back to make them think that they were getting a return on their investment. So this is when Lucy wrote a check to Tyler for $1.5 million. And this $1.5 million was supposedly coming out of Lucy's mom's bank account because her mom, quote, wouldn't notice if that much went missing. And I just feel like I need to pause for a second here because I just can't wrap my head around all of the money in today's case. It feels like every single person in this case is a multimillionaire, like even richer than that. Because who the hell wouldn't notice $1.5 million missing from their bank account? Who has that kind of money anyway? But who wouldn't notice that amount of money going missing? So when I said earlier on in today's case that Lucy's family were wealthy, that is how wealthy they are. They are the kind of wealthy that wouldn't notice $1.5 million going missing. And this is where this case gets really confusing, so I'm really, really sorry. I've tried to make it as simple as possible, but these people, they don't have any common sense, they don't have any brains, so I can't make sense of their thinking. So anyway, Lucy has wrote out this check for $1.5 million, hoping that it will delay Tyler, keep him happy for a little bit. It turns out that that check never gets cashed, but Lucy is still trying to figure out how they're going to get out of this and how they're going to buy more time. So they want to scam Tyler and Jordan even more. So this is when Lucy comes up with this whole insurance scam. So if you remember, Lucy's mom works in the life insurance business, and Lucy worked with her mom for a very long time. She is a trained insurance worker. Well, Lucy told Tyler that she could sell him this big life insurance policy through her mom's company, and that is how they were going to get the money from Europe across to Canada without paying taxes. And Tyler and Jordan, they were all for this. They agreed to buy this $1.5 million insurance to help get the money from Europe that they were owed. But what they didn't realize is that this was a complete scam. This was all fake. Lucy was now committing insurance fraud. Lucy just took the deposit that Tyler and Jordan had bought and kept it for herself. And I'm like, what is your objective here? You are trying to get yourself out of a scam by scamming them even more. Like, it just doesn't make sense, does it? So we are now into 2021. It is currently February, and Tyler is now getting really, really fed up because he just keeps handing over money and he is not seeing any return of investment. He has bought this insurance policy to try and speed up the process and get the money from Europe, but still he hasn't seen any money. And Oliver and Lucy are just still trying to delay him left, right, and center. So this is when Tyler said to Oliver that if he doesn't see any return of investment by March the 1st, they were going to have a really big problem. Now, I don't know what he means by that, but Oliver starts panicking. He starts thinking that Tyler could hurt him, and how was he going to get out of this because he had no money to give him? Oliver also remembered that Tyler was a drug dealer. Well, obviously he was a drug trafficker, so he could know some very dangerous people. So this is when Oliver and Lucy decided, both of them, that they needed to end this once and for all. And this is now where this case takes a very deadly twist. Because on the 28th of February 2021, just one day before Tyler wanted his money, this is when Oliver and Lucy's sinister plan starts to fall into place. Because on this day, Oliver and Lucy had invited Tyler and Jordan to a business meeting that they had set up. And what was this meeting for? Well, apparently Oliver had a new business idea, which was to start a legal marijuana growing business. So Oliver told Tyler about this new venture, the fact that it was legal, and this was going to be a way that they could both make a lot more money, and Tyler was all into this. Oliver had apparently found the perfect location. It was a good price. It was this really big warehouse on an industrial park that wasn't too far from where they all lived. It was just perfect. And Oliver told Tyler that he had set up a meeting with a realtor at this warehouse. However, what Tyler didn't realize is that this was all a big lie. There was no meeting, there was no realtor, there was no business plan to set up this legal marijuana business. Oliver was actually luring Tyler to this warehouse for a more sinister reason. Because earlier on in that day, Oliver bought a car from his friend in cash. It was a white Audi Q5. And most importantly, there was no way to trace this car back to Oliver. Next, Oliver and Lucy visit one of Lucy's friends and asks them if they can borrow their SIM card and that they would return it later on that day. And the friend was really confused. The friend was like, "Why do you want my SIM card? Like, what the hell? Who the hell asks for a SIM card?" And Lucy was like, "Oh, don't worry, it's just for work. Like, don't ask any questions, don't worry." So the friend hands over their SIM card from their cell phone. So now Oliver and Lucy have a SIM card that can't be traced back to them. And in the days leading up to the 28th of February, Oliver and Lucy exchange various messages between one another. They text a lot about Tyler and Jordan, and a lot of the messages are about their sinister plan. They do try and speak in code, and one of the messages actually says, "I hope these idiots have money." So it's just all looking very suspicious, isn't it? So on the 28th of February, with the SIM card that can't be traced back to them, Oliver sends Tyler a message through an encrypted messaging app, saying that they were only 10 minutes away from the warehouse. And Oliver and Lucy arrive at the warehouse in the Audi Q5, driven by Lucy, obviously, because remember that Oliver has a driving ban. Oliver then cuts open the padlock to the property because obviously there was no actual realtor there, so they're also trespassing and breaking in. They drive around to the back of the property, completely hidden from view and any witnesses, and Oliver and Lucy lie there in wait. Lucy was also wearing a blonde wig as like some sort of disguise, just in case she is caught on any CCTV. And not too long after, Tyler and Jordan also pull up to the warehouse in their Range Rover. They pull around to the back of the property where Oliver and Lucy are, and this is where the crazy events of today's case start to unfold. Because first, Tyler gets out of his car and he is really confused because Oliver has turned up in this random car that he has never seen before. Also, Lucy has this blonde wig on, and Tyler says, "Where's the realtor? Like, who are we supposed to be meeting?" At this point, Oliver and Tyler are talking to one another. They are stood next to each other in their cars. Lucy actually gets into Tyler's Range Rover because Jordan is still inside the car. And Lucy is clearly trying to distract Jordan. And Jordan is also very confused about the situation as well because Jordan and Tyler were under the impression that after they had seen this warehouse, they were all going to go out for dinner. So Jordan was there. She was in really nice clothes. She was in a tan sweater. She had her Louboutin boots on. And Lucy, she's wearing this random blonde wig and she's in sweats. And Lucy was known for dressing very glamorously. Like, that was her thing. Any opportunity to wear really nice clothes, Lucy took it. It was just not adding up. It was really suspicious. It was really weird. And Jordan just couldn't get past the feeling that something wasn't right. And to make this whole situation a million times worse is that Jordan was pregnant. She was currently 13 weeks pregnant. And I just want to stress right now that Lucy and Oliver know this. What they're about to do, They know that Jordan is pregnant. So all of a sudden, Lucy jumps out of the Range Rover and she just starts running. And at the exact moment that Lucy is running away, Jordan looks up from the driver's seat and Oliver is pointing a gun at her face. Tyler was stood next to Oliver with a terrified look on his face. Oliver had clearly pulled out the gun whilst Lucy was distracting Jordan. And before Jordan even had time to think, time to do anything, Oliver pointed the gun at her and started pulling the trigger. Oliver shot at Jordan 3 times. The first 2 bullets missed her, hitting the vehicle instead. Now, Jordan instantly put the car in reverse and tried to get out of there, but she then accidentally crashed the car. So then Oliver pulled the trigger a 3rd time. And tragically, this 3rd time, it hit Jordan, and it hit Jordan in the heart. And she collapsed in the car immediately. And all of this happened so quickly, like a matter of seconds. Now, Tyler was stood next to Oliver and he had barely any time to react to what had just happened at all before Oliver then turned the gun on Tyler. And then he just started shooting at Tyler. He shot at Tyler 5 or 6 times. Multiple bullets hit his arms and 1 bullet went through the back of his neck, which just showed that Tyler was running away. But the final bullet hit Tyler in the chest, which caused Tyler to collapse immediately onto the floor. And very sadly, this is when Tyler Pratt lost his life. And this whole attack, it happened so quickly, it was so awful. Remember that Jordan is 13 weeks pregnant right now. And what makes this even worse is that Jordan and Tyler, they saw Oliver and Lucy as friends, people that they could trust. And this is how they were treated. And after this senseless attack, Oliver and Lucy fled the scene immediately. They actually fled the scene in Tyler's Range Rover, which obviously Jordan is currently in. She's currently collapsed after being shot in the heart. So the first thing Oliver and Lucy do is they drag Jordan's body out of the Range Rover and just dump her on the side of the street. They just literally leave her there on the ground. And then they drive off in the Range Rover. Oliver took it to one of his friends to strip it of parts and to sell on and just to get rid of it. Oliver and Lucy then went back to the scene, grabbed the Audi. They both walked past Jordan's body still there on the floor. Then they took the Audi to be stripped and sold for parts, so that couldn't be traced either. And then they took a taxi back to their home. They even took the stairs to avoid CCTV, thinking that they were being all clever. The couple were then convinced that they had just committed the perfect crime and there was no way they were ever going to be caught. However, what they didn't realise is back at the warehouse, something unbelievable was happening. Because at around 7:20 p.m, which is nearly an hour after all of the shootings, a nearby motorist was passing by the warehouse and they saw a woman on the ground. And who was this woman? Well, it was Jordan. Unbelievably, after being shot in the heart, Jordan was still alive. She was still clinging to life, trying to get someone to help her. Now, this motorist, they stopped and Jordan said, "Help me, I've been shot." So emergency services immediately came out and Jordan was rushed to hospital. Now, obviously, police were also at the scene and this is when the police discovered Tyler's body at the back of the warehouse. And obviously, Tyler had immediately lost his life after being shot in the chest. So sadly, there was nothing emergency services could do for Tyler. But Jordan, she was now at the hospital. She went straight into surgery and she actually spent the next few days in a coma. Now, of course, police immediately opened up a murder investigation, but they had no idea who was behind the murder and then the shooting of Jordan. Now, Oliver and Lucy, they were back at their home and they were watching the news that was covering the shootings at this warehouse. And they were sitting there all smug, thinking they had committed the perfect crime. However, on the news, it was said that there was a survivor. They were currently in a coma. However, they were likely to wake up. Now, Oliver and Lucy immediately started to panic because they were like, oh my God, this must be Jordan. And she's going to wake up and then she's going to be able to identify us. So they immediately decided to flee the country. Yeah, The couple first managed to take a flight to Prague, where they hid out in an Airbnb for a few days, before eventually making their way to Oliver's parents' home in Slovakia. So whilst Oliver and Lucy are in Prague and making their way to Slovakia, police are doing everything to try and track down who is responsible for this crime. So they start by looking at cell tower data, and they managed to track down the SIM card that Lucy had borrowed from her friend, and that was at the scene of the crime at the time the shootings had taken place. So the police tracked down Lucy's friend that she had borrowed that SIM card from, and they go and arrest the friend. Now, the friend has no idea what is going on, and the friend immediately says, well, it was Lucy. Like, Lucy wanted my SIM card a few days ago. She must be behind this. So now the police had two more names. They had the name of Lucy and then her husband, Oliver. So they go to CCTV and they actually see the couple fleeing their home, making their way to an airport. Now, does that look suspicious? Just a little bit. The police are now convinced that Oliver and Lucy are behind the murders and the shootings. They also find items of Lucy's clothes with blood stains on. They find the blonde wig. They find bullets, documents relating to an insurance scheme, and keys to the Audi car. The police also tracked down the Range Rover and the Audi before they had both been sold for parts. So the evidence was really mounting up now against Oliver and Lucy. So whilst all of this is going on, Jordan finally wakes up from her coma. Now, when she first woke up, she had no idea what had happened. She was so confused, and the police had the dreadful job of informing her that not only had she been shot in the heart, her fiancé had also been murdered, but she has also lost her baby. I can't even imagine how soul-crushing hearing all of that news would have been for Jordan. I just feel so sorry for Jordan. And the police asked her if she had any recollection of what had happened. And Jordan did the best that she could. She couldn't remember everything, but she could remember some things. She told the police that she remembers meeting Lucy and Oliver at the warehouse because they were supposed to meet a realtor. And then she remembers Oliver pulling out a gun and shooting, but then everything just goes black and she can't remember anything else. So now the police know 100% that it is Oliver and Lucy behind the murder of Tyler and the shooting and attempted murder of Jordan. They know they have fled the country, so they put out an international arrest warrant. So right now, Oliver and Lucy, they're hiding out in Slovakia. And this is where Lucy gets a call from one of her sisters saying that she is wanted for murder. And her sister is so confused. She's saying, what is going on? What do they mean you wanted for murder? Like, what have you gotten yourself involved in? Lucy's mom also got involved and she was like, no way is my Lucy behind all of this. Like, no way is she involved in murder. Now, Lucy's mom, being quite a high-profile businesswoman, she did come out to the media and made a statement. She said that she was shocked and disturbed and puzzled by her daughter's involvement in this tragedy, and she also publicly told her daughter to cooperate. But was Lucy and Oliver going to cooperate? No. They had no intention of handing themselves in. They knew that they needed to flee from Oliver's parents' house because there was an arrest warrant out for them, and they knew that police would immediately go to Oliver's parents' house, so they needed to get out of there. So this is when Oliver's dad gets involved, and he actually pays 250,000 euros to some people, clearly very dodgy people, to hide Oliver and Lucy and give them new identities. So they both got new fake passports. You can actually see images of these fake passports online. You can see that they have different names. It says that Lucy was born in the Philippines. It says that Oliver's name is Jacob. They are then hidden in the back of a military-style vehicle and they are smuggled over the border into Hungary, where they now spend the next 2 months hiding. Yeah, they hide out in Hungary for the next 2 months. No one knew where they were. So it's just crazy, isn't it, that they actually are getting away with this right now. Because the investigation came to a halt, no one knew where they were. And it did look like they possibly could get away with murder. However, after hiding out in Hungary for 2 months, both Oliver and Lucy were a little bit bored. They thought, there's no way the international arrest warrant is still out there. There's no one looking for us. We're fine. And Lucy just wanted to go back to Canada. She thought that no one would be looking for her. She would be able to get a fake Canadian passport, go back to Canada, and just carry on living her life. I truly don't know what is going through her head. It's like, do they really think that an international arrest warrant for murder is just going to disappear, especially after 2 months? Are they really that entitled and privileged to think that they are just going to get away with this? Well, as you can imagine, the arrest warrant didn't go away. So Oliver and Lucy, after they had ventured out and started wandering around in public for a few days, some people actually recognised them, reported them to the police, and they were arrested. They were both held in a Hungary jail, and there was going to be a long extradition process to bring them both back to Canada. Oliver protested this at every opportunity, saying that it was a conspiracy against against him, that it wasn't safe for him to go back to Canada, and that he just wanted to go back to Slovakia. That is where he would get a fair trial. But when it came to Lucy, after spending just a few days in jail in Hungary, she was like, this is not a 5-star hotel. I need to go back to Canada right now. She had had enough. She wasn't happy with the bed that she had, the clothes that she was provided, the food. She wasn't happy with the toilets. It's like, Lucy, you have just been involved in a murder and you're complaining about the clothes you are wearing. Wow. So after only a few days, Lucy waived the extradition process and she was like, take me back to Canada. So police were arranging for her to go back to Canada, and they informed her that she would be getting on a plane, obviously, to go back to Canada. And I can't believe this next bit. I just have to pause for a second because I truly cannot believe this actually happened. But Lucy was like, economy? What? You are going to send me on a regular plane? No. Please, my mom will pay for a private plane for me. Please, just let me travel in first class. And I'm just like, wow, the entitlement. She truly thought that she could get her mom to pay for a private plane to take her back to Canada, and that would be okay. She actually said that she has never flown economy because she doesn't like small spaces. And she just doesn't think that she would be able to cope flying economy. I just can't believe it. I truly can't. So, unfortunately, it's a very sad story for Lucy right now, having to get on a plane, a regular plane, in an economy seat. So very sadly, Lucy gets on this plane and she goes back to Canada. And she's immediately taken into a police station for an interview. So the police start asking Lucy for her side of the story, like what happened. And Lucy actually said, I'm really sorry if this makes me seem rude, but my mom and my lawyer have told me not to tell you anything. If it was up to me, I would tell you everything, but I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah, I feel really rude, and I don't want to not seem like I don't want to cooperate. And if it was up to me, I would just tell you guys everything, but my lawyer and my mom strongly instructed me not to say anything.
However, the one thing that Lucy does say is that she was not involved. It was 100% Oliver. And he must have carried out the murder without her knowledge.
I have no idea, because Oliver and my relationship, he deals with the finances and the business, but he doesn't really, he tells me the gist of it, but he never really tells me like the figures, what he's doing, and it's always been like that since me and Oliver's been dating.
And as you can imagine, granting bail to a murder suspect who is a flight risk is incredibly rare, if it ever happens, especially someone that has already fled the country. But for some strange reason, Lucy is granted bail, but she was offered bail at $2.7 million, which her mom paid immediately. And that was definitely because of her mom's high profile that she was granted bail. 100%. Meanwhile, Oliver is eventually extradited back to Canada and he was not offered bail. And he was held in jail for 2 years awaiting trial. And during this 2 years, whilst Lucy was out on bail, she actually did breach her own bail conditions. She was caught going to a party and also being in contact with someone that she shouldn't be. So she was also thrown in jail. And then in April of 2024, this case finally goes to trial. And the trial lasted just over a month. And there was so much evidence in this case. Even though Oliver and Lucy truly thought that they had committed the perfect crime, they really hadn't. The prosecution laid out the relationship between Tyler and Oliver and how their relationship began, how Oliver basically scammed Tyler out of so much money and he wasn't able to pay any of that money back, which is how the whole thing turned into a twisted murder plot. They also had so much CCTV footage, DNA evidence, bullets found at the scene. They also detailed how Lucy was involved in every single element of this crime. Jordan also took the stand and gave evidence of that harrowing day to the best of her recollection. And when it came to the defense, Oliver refused to take the stand. But as for Lucy, she was determined to have her day in court. She spent days on the stand concocting this crazy elaborate story, how she had no idea of anything that was going on. She rambled on and on. She just liked the sound of her own voice. Once again, she blamed everything on her husband, and I have to keep reminding myself that they're married. Like, I still can't wrap my head around that. They're married. They got married in an airport. I don't actually know if they're still married. I am sure that they will be divorced very soon if they are not already. Lucy also talked about the fact that Oliver would cheat on her regularly, that she couldn't trust him one bit, and he would definitely commit this murder without her knowing. And she also tried to say that the only reason why she was wearing that blonde wig on the day of the murder is because she was convinced that Oliver was actually going out to cheat on her. And it was his fetish for Lucy to wear a blonde wig when they had sex. So that is what Lucy was doing. She was wearing this blonde wig to try and stop Oliver from going out to cheat on her, which is just like, really? Do you think anyone's going to believe that? However, the prosecution showed CCTV footage of Lucy the whole day of the murder trying to hide her face constantly from cameras. They also brought up the fact that it was Lucy that went to her friend to borrow that SIM card so their movements couldn't be traced, even though she was apparently innocent. She also tried to provide an alibi that she was with her family all night on the night of the murder, even though none of her family members could back this up. The prosecution also asked, if Lucy was so innocent, if she had no idea about this murder, why did she go on the run for 2 months across Europe? Her defense to her running away to Europe was that Oliver had convinced her that they were both in danger. So that is the reason why she ran away. However, in the end, the jury saw the truth and they found Oliver and Lucy guilty on all charges, and they were both sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. And in the aftermath of this case, the media were very split on how they should portray Tyler as a victim. Some condemned him for his occupation as a drug trafficker, which is totally justified. The drug trade causes so much harm to so many people. But then his family have since, after the trial, come out to try and change the narrative about Tyler, saying that he was a caring man, and yes, he was in the drug business, but he was trying to get out of it, and he wasn't a violent man. He never got involved in gang wars or violence. He never attacked anybody. He was a caring and devoted father, and they wanted to change this narrative about Tyler. And his family said, quote, Tyler was a really caring parent. He was a great father. He worked really hard in our hockey community. He was a loving person, passionate. He really cared for those he loved. They want his children to remember him for the amazing person he was. And obviously, regardless of Tyler's occupation, he did not deserve to be murdered. He was murdered in cold blood by someone that he trusted, someone that he classed as a friend. And I just hope that Tyler's children are doing okay, because they are victims in this case as well. They have lost their father, and I just truly hope that Jordan is doing okay. She lost her fiance and her baby on that day. And at the end of the day, the monsters in today's case are Lucy and Oliver. And that is the end of today's case. As always, let me know your thoughts, theories, and opinions. Thank you again to Midas Merch for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget you can download the game using my link in my description box. And that is everything from me, so I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.